All right, welcome to another episode of the Momentum Interview Series, where we speak to experts in their fields about all things sales. Today, we're speaking to Vandana Nair, the VP of Rev Ops and Go-to-Market Strategy at Narvar. Vandana, thank you for making time for us today. Today, as VP of Rev Ops at Narvar, when you think about your current job, what do you spend most of your time doing?
Most important part of my job is making sure that things are prioritized and sequenced in a way that makes sense for stakeholders and for my own team. This job really is more about making sure that the consumption of data becomes more manageable, more democratic across the organization. And that takes prioritization. It takes understanding what all the big problems are, how you're going to solve them.
Based on that question real quick, what are some of the common blockers that you have to, or you find yourself having to remove from the way of the people on your team?
It's what I like to think of as assumed urgency, the assumed urgency quotient, right? It's when you have a team that is essentially a service team, it's a support team, no matter what you want to call it, yes, it's a glue, it's a team that's a glue, it's a team that is impactful in many ways to how businesses run. All that is great, but at the very heart of it, this is a support organization. And it's the kind of people that are attracted to a support organization, I find, are people that want to do, quick, and respond as quickly as possible. And I think that's the trap that that the team falls into. Like, they just assume that the assessment of urgency has happened on the stakeholder side. So when something comes in, it must be urgent. Like, why else would a director or a VP be asking them to do something, right? It must be urgent. So I think that has been probably training the team to take a step back and really assess. Probably has been where I've spent most of my time doing. That's where the roadblocks have been for the team. The other thing I think that that sometimes goes overlooked, because in smaller companies, people hate the word process. It's like process, like, oh my God, you didn't say that word. But the fact is, everything is actually a process. Everything is a process. It's when things are not working correctly or really working crappily, that's also a process. It just happens to be the process that formed in the absence of a process that was well thought out.
What is your greatest challenge as a RevOps leader? You're currently in that role right now at Narvar. What do you feel is your greatest challenge?
It's different. It's been different at every company. I think that coming in and hiring up the best people for the role has always been possibly the biggest challenge. And I think every org and every team has a kind of a microculture. So it's important to hire for that. And it's, so that is, I think, the biggest challenge. That's also a challenge that I'm actually facing right now at Narvar, where the positions are far ahead of, us keeping up with it in terms of hiring. And then I think taking stock of, people, a lot of times people feel like throwing a lot into the GTM stack to test it out, try it, throw it, try it, throw it. Like, I think it's a little, it can be a little short-sighted, because sometimes when you come in and take stock of the GTM stack, you find that there's a lot of unnecessaries. And actually, it's not that easy to remove things from people's ecosystem and environment. So I think change management is one where people underestimate like how much change management is going to take to actually fix up the GTM stack. And of course, putting a sales process in place is always an enjoyable and invigorating exercise at any company.
Let's look towards the future a little bit. What are some trends in RevOps that you wish sales teams would be aware of?
One thing many people have been surprised and pleasantly surprised by is how much AI is doing now. So as you know, so a lot of times I'll tell salespeople that, hey, we're rolling out a tool, and actually you're not. Please don't enter this information anymore because it'll be a duplicate because the system's already picking it up. And I've had some like startled looks in the past. People are like, wait, so you don't want me to log my activity? Or so you're saying I shouldn't like, import my contact because it's already going to take it from my email. So there have been some very positive sort of reactions, I think, where, a lot of companies that are actually going down that path where like, they're doing, they're bubbling up insights, and all this like AI revolution that's going on has been really fantastic. Yeah, and the other thing that I actually, the other thing that's happening is with like Slack taking over so many communications. There have been 2 or 3 companies already that have spoken with me about how they're looking to make the sales process that much simpler through Slack. So basically take something that salespeople are doing anyway, and help them sort of alleviate some of the drudgery of having to repeat all that information by entering it somewhere else. And that's been a positive trend, I think, that again follows what sales needs, follows taking away friction, and is something that's a pleasant surprise to everybody.
We talk a lot about processes when it comes to facilitating deals, but what's your rough blueprint for how a deal desk should function?
The deal desk needs to be a place that can facilitate a deal without giving away the farm. It's important that the company is able to recognize the effort that went into doing that deal. And if you're not able to recognize the bookings, you're not able to recognize the revenue, you're not able to bill for it, if the customer is unhappy that let's pick an example, they didn't have agreement on the SLAs in a way that made sense to them, that right there is wasted effort for many, many, many people. It's, and it's the deal desk's role to be that team that basically tells everybody hold up, it's missing this, and this before you ring the gong. So let's first get with the program here.
What are some of the biggest challenges that B2B companies face when it comes to running a deal desk?
There's a tendency to sort of become this transactional group, which is, which goes, the pendulum kind of swings the other way. So I think that's in a high growth company where I find that a lot of B2B companies are operating right now, at least in the space that I know, that's a danger. So I'd say that there's definitely a need to take a step back and be like, what really keep your eye on the ball in terms of hiring. Who are the people I'm hiring? What am I really going to be expecting them to do? If I'm truly going to need a transactional side of the business, like perhaps there is a need where to divide up the strategy and the order management aspect of it. How do I do that? But like there needs to be sort of a constant reevaluation of where the deal desk needs to go.
Which necessary team roles would you add to a deal desk if you're building one from scratch?
I'd say product, if needed, definitely revenue recognition, definitely legal. These would be the teams that should be, working very closely together to make sure the business comes in a format that can be useful to the company.
Let's talk culture for a little bit. What kind of culture have you tried to build at Narvar, and how's that been going for you?
As much as possible, I want to have an open culture of a team meeting where we discuss projects. Do people want to play a part in the project? Yes. What is their assessment of it? If they're qualified to do it, there's no reason why not. So openness is something that I really, really, really strive for in an organization, and I know it sometimes takes time to build that, because a lot of times people are just inclined to just go with what their managers say, and I say this very often to the teams, like, I love a good discussion. I always have a point of view. I'm going to throw it out there, and I'm not wedded to it. I'm just not wedded to it. If I say do A and you come back and say to me B is better and here's why, I'm not wedded to A. It's just a conversation starter for me. Like if I had all the answers, I would be, I would just, I don't know, that kind of power is not right for one person having all the right answers all the time. I don't think it's humanly possible to do that. So there's that. The second thing is that if there's not accountability within a team, there will not, and I'm not just saying accountability to get back on deadlines. I'm talking about accountability to each other. If people have to appreciate that the work that they are doing is impacting other people, and that not getting back on time, not providing an assessment of how things are going to go, when things are going to go, it impacts a lot of people. And being part of a team means you care about your teammates. Otherwise, we're just a bunch of mercenaries thrown together in a freaking Zoom meeting. Like, I don't believe that that's why we're here. So that is extremely important to me. The third thing I try to impress on the team, any team, is that you're responsible not just for your personal brand, you're also responsible for your team brand. Every interaction that a person has with a person on the team influences the team brand. And I am fanatical about that. Absolutely fanatical about that. Like, if there is going to be something that impacts a stakeholder, we must have a way as an organization to present that in a way that is professional, that has been audited and double checked, that puts the team front and center in a way that everybody's efforts are recognized, and that it's done in a manner that is stakeholder focused, so that people understand that our team is about that. Those are the building blocks of how I like to think about our team. I think that if you set these things of basic humanity right, it brings out the best in people.
What kind of traits are you usually looking for in an ideal sales ops lead? What would you say make for a great leader in that space?
So curiosity and a growth mindset is immense for me. And usually these are things, thankfully, these are things that are relatively easy to test for if you give yourself enough time with a candidate. And one big thing to me that I look for in a Rev Ops leader is somebody that has been kicked in the teeth a few times with bad decisions. There's no substitute for that. Yeah, you could say experience, yes, but I actually had a candidate once tell me that they never had any post-production issues. I was just like, I don't even know what to say to you, because I can tell you I have had post-production issues every time. Like, there's literally not a single time when I haven't. So yeah, I think people that learn from their mistakes, I can clearly articulate what it is that they learned, because it's not, a lot of people will be like, oh, I made that mistake. Then it's like, right, well, what are you never going to make again as a mistake for that reason? So that's extremely important.
What metrics would you use to track the performance of Rev Ops and Sales Ops leader?
This is actually where the roadmap is extremely important. There's one aspect of Rev Ops, which is timeliness in terms of sales planning, making sure that there's resource planning for the downstream teams, when are we hiring, bottoms up planning, making sure plans are out, territories are set. Another big aspect is, data quality. That I have deep thoughts on data quality and how to measure for that. But it's a tricky one, because the tools that are available for data quality are not really perfect. So it's more based on iterative effort that I would measure the person, and improvement over time on the data quality, rather than have absolute numbers. And then finally, there's the there's the deal desk, where you measure on SLA. You measure on, there's always going to be from the deal desk side, there's always going to be a bit of a qualitative aspect. Having people come back to you and say, person Y is an asset, is a tremendous asset, because every time I go to them, I walk away knowing that they have taken as much interest in setting up this deal as I have. So it's a true partnership. And then from the systems perspective, it has to be adherence to roadmap. It has to be, I'm not saying never change the roadmap, but change management. That's a big aspect of it. So it's kind of got multiple aspects to it, and it's difficult to just roll in and say, it all comes down to X percentage improve in this. I think it has to be a pretty nuanced sort of measurement to say how you would measure the just a person.
What's one thing in a candidate that make you instantly swipe right? So I remember you mentioned empathy for the sales process earlier on.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that would make you go, yeah, I think this is a fantastic pick and we should explore this candidate further?
I love when people attempt to do discovery and attempt to arrive at a solution within the during the course of the interview. Like, tell me more about that, or what do you mean? Like, sometimes I've been in situations where we'll be like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? So we kind of get into that jam as well. So, of course, within limits, as much as you can do within the interview. I love seeing that curiosity, that discovery, that, so that's something that just, I would be, even if the person were 80% or 70% in the skills, that were highlighted, I would be hard pressed to let go a candidate like that.
So curiosity. And then on the flip side of that, what would be an instant red flag for you?
That's a tough one, because I do give people a lot of chances to redeem themselves in an interview. I think that arrogance and the no real growth in terms of lessons learned, or a lot of eyes, or that's sort of like it's off-putting to me, because I think that it's toxic for a team environment, and essentially, we're not here to be lone wolves, and that is extremely off-putting to me. I've actually had to walk away from a few candidates that were impressively qualified, but just were not going to be the right fit for an org. So that is a huge red flag for me. Wherever there is the luxury to do so, take tasks together and understand the pattern of why things are being asked. And that eventually will also allow you, I think, to be a better partner, to come back and get that group together and be like, I'm noticing a trend here. Here's how I think we should plan for the future.
My last question for you: if you were starting your career all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
I have to say, this goes to something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I have two girls, and I would have done more. I would have spoken up more. I would have had a stronger point of view. And I would have supported other women leaders more in a visible manner. Like I always have. I've always had my tribe, and I've always had, that feeling of like, we must, if I'm not going to support my sisters, or who else is, but I think that there have been, like, as I go further back, like earlier on, when I wasn't a manager, when I was just an IC, and I didn't think that it was important for, like I felt like I didn't matter. My voice didn't matter if I said something, for such a cause. I would go back and say, it does matter. So say more, do more. And yeah, that's one thing I would do. I would speak up more and have a firmer point of view on just gender equality, empowerment, something even small like what they're saying now, which is the women feel talked over. So to amplify the message that another woman is giving into a meeting, because I have worked in some very male-dominated environments, right? I would do that more. That's what I would do.
Love that. Thank you so much for these insights, Vandana. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much, Mo. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.